Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my second episode of History in Games. So today I'm going to talk about Diablo, the very first Diablo 1 for PC. It was released in North America, December 31st, 1996. And this was the beginning of like the clicky, click dungeon crawlers. This story is set in the fictional kingdom known as Honduras. Pretty much the story is, after an eternal battle between angels and demons, humankind ascended. Three lords of hell, Diablo is one of them. The most important, obviously, because the game is named Diablo, not the other guys. So they were exiled into the mortal realm. They just made chaos for humans until our pals the Haradrim came by and were like, hey, this isn't really working. So we're gonna fix this. So they trapped him in soul stones. Done with listening to you. We're gonna go do our own thing. And they put Diablo deep in the earth under a monastery. Because when you think, hey, where should I put a great evil entity trapped in a stone, bam, right into the ground. And then let's build a monastery. So years and years go by, and people forget what the monastery was for. Why would you build a monastery over it? Could you build like a giant, like, don't park here, don't park your horses. A town known as Tristram popped up next to the monastery, and King Leoric rebuilt the monastery into a cathedral because, hey, it's just a monastery no one uses. Nothing could possibly go wrong. The cathedral's archbishop, Lazarus, was possessed by Diablo. Wow, we didn't see that coming. He sent his people to go to towns and just murder the crap. And then he possessed the king's son, Prince Albrecht. He filled the caves and catacombs and all that stuff with creatures from the boy's nightmares. So bam, that's where the enemies come from. It then became a town where people got murdered, disappeared throughout the night. So then there's only like 6 people there. Get on it, guys. Population murder. So you start the game after you choose one of your 3 classes. The game starts you entering the town, and everyone's like, oh my god, help me. Charge everyone in the town. Decker Kane, he's like, hey, how you doing? We need your help. Please do stuff. Thanks. So you go into the cathedral, the labyrinth under the cathedral. That leads to the catacombs, and then the caves, and then finally you get to hell itself. Hell. And along the way you're fighting some fun-fested bosses. There's the Butcher, King Leoric, who is now a giant skeleton king surrounded by a crap ton of skeletons that just murder your face. Super later on you fight Archbishop Lazarus. And then finally Diablo, who is just some giant awkward tall dude compared to how he looks in like 2 or 3, where he looks kind of more like a giant 4-legged creature, where this one he's really standing on just 2 legs and he just punches you in the face. So, once you kill Diablo's mortal form, then you take the soul stone out of his head, and he turns into Prince Albrecht, who's totally dead. And then for some reason, you're like, hey, you know what I could do right now? This giant, super sharp crystal, I could just jam it into my fucking forehead, and then that's what you do. And the game ends. I just like they didn't have a plan. You take the soul stone, instead of like taking it somewhere and being like, hey, I found this thing, $20. They're just like, hey, take it, jam it into your own face. So now we're going to talk about the development. Diablo was conceived by David Brevik, who initially, when he was pitching the game, wanted it to be a like full-on turn-based RPG, but companies weren't going for it. So he was working on a game, Justice League Task Force. He was working with Sunsoft and 2 American studios, Condor Games and Silicon Synapse, which later became Blizzard. He then found out that he had a similar interest in PC gaming with Blizzard. He pitched Diablo, and they said they didn't want it to be turn-based, they wanted it to be real-time, they wanted it to have multiplayer. So the actual HUD was designed by Brevik, and he kind of based it off the Doom HUD, where you could see all the crap on the bottom of the screen. He wanted it to be quick, like a console game's HUD, where everything was right there, you didn't have to do anything, you could just fucking go. The actual game was being made for 6 months before it made the switch away from turn-based. Another influence for the game was actually Legend of Zelda. They wanted to move away from like stat-heavy turn-based games and turn it into a more action-packed adventure game, which nailed it. And another thing that influenced the turn was the success of Warcraft 1. Orcs and Humans, which is a real-time strategy game. And they also wanted to make it an claymation, but they decided to go for like the 3D isometric view. The soundtrack of Diablo is only 6 songs. 6. And it was composed by Matt Uelmen? Matt U. The CD was actually released in 2011. So yeah, 7 years ago. One thing this game did that was pretty interesting was you needed the CD to play. You were able to install a shareware version called the Diablo Spawn, so you could give that to other people and you'd be able to play the first like 2 dungeons with only 1 character online, which was really cool for them. You also able to download it too, so you didn't have to have someone's CD to take it. Now we're going to talk about some gameplay. You pretty much do everything in this game with the mouse. You click a billion clicks. It's one of the Billion Clicks games. You have like potions and spells, everything set to hotkeys on the keyboard, so you could just go for it. So you go through all 16 randomly generated, to an extent, dungeons and, kill monsters, find stuff, get new gear, find spells, level up, increase your stats, go get murdered by Diablo. The floors are randomly generated, but to a limit. The catacombs have like long corridors and some closed areas. The caves are more non-linear because they're just big open caves. And you get some optional quests thrown in through the dungeon and what you get from the townspeople. So that'll give you like some bonus experience, maybe an item or 5. They also give you some more of the backstory. So if you're like, hey, what happened to this guy? Cool, story. Nice. And then of course, the final quests are mandatory because it's kill the Archbishop, kill Diabs, endgame. It's also in the for it. There are 3 character classes to choose from. The Warrior, the Rogue, and the Sorcerer. Pretty much preset characters. Each character has their own skill. The Warrior can repair items at the cost of some of the maximum durability. The Rogue skill is to disarm traps, which I never used in my entire time of playing this game. And the Sorcerer can recharge a staff. Staff with the spell has charges, so you can use that staff X amount of times before you have to get it recharged. You can kind of do it yourself, but then your max charges goes down. So I never did that because it's a waste. So the Warrior is strength based, so you're the tank, you run in, you just mash people in the face, you could take the most punishment. The Rogue is ranged, bow it up, just shooting things in the face from afar. Main stat dexterity. Sorcerer being like super terribly weak compared to the other 2, but your magic is amazing. So it's 3 character classes. They all play really differently. Okay, so the big thing about the game was items. So you go around, find special monsters, you do quests, you find unique items that are like crazy better than what you normally have. So it's finding what combination of weapons and armor works for you to get farther in the dungeon. This game was a little less forgiving than most games that are like dungeon crawlers, especially nowadays. You can only like redo quests and floors when you're playing multiplayer. If you play single player, you go through and your progress stays. The monsters don't regenerate, so you gotta get your shit together the first time. One thing you're also looking for is books. So you can find books or scrolls. Scrolls are just like a one cast gone forever. Buy books, if you have the proper stats to read the book, you learn the spell, you have that spell forever. You can level each spell up 15 times, and then they become less useless. You just have to find a bookcase and hope it doesn't drop a scroll instead of a book. Yeah, as the wizard, you gotta get mana shield, because that's the only way you can take hits. You don't use health potions, you just use magic potions. And the potion use was instant, unlike the later games, where you use a potion and it slowly fills. So you have to kind of pace yourself. Or Diablo 3, where it's a cooldown. So you use it, it fills, you have to wait X amount of time before you can use it again. This is instant, you can mash all the potion buttons at the same time, and use 8 potions at once. So one of the biggest things about this game was the multiplayer. You could play with 3 other people using like a modem or a battle.net connection. Yeah, modems. Remember those kids? The one funny thing about this game was how easy it was to cheat. Way back then, they didn't have really good like anti-cheat detection. There were a lot of cheaters online. A lot. It was also super easy to duplicate an item. You would open the inventory, you would drop the item that you want to dupe, even if it's like a pile of 5,000 gold, because the gold actually takes inventory up in this game. So you would drop the item, have an item ready, turn into the item. So an item you didn't care about, like a potion. Buy a regular like health potion, under 200 gold, you could turn this 5,000 pile of gold and a potion into 2 piles of 5,000 gold. So you would drop it on the ground, walk up, and then walk down, and right as your character went to pick up the item on the bottom, you would click on whatever item you wanted to sub it for. And then when you dropped it, it would turn into that second item. It was so easy to do. It was crazy and really funny. Yes, I did it too. I did it all the time. When I was dicking around, who cares? Duping was hilarious. But then people would download like stat generators, so you can like pretty much get the best item of the game and just spawn them, and then they would go into a public game and just start dropping all this amazing crap that's like impossible to find. Me, when I was younger, when the game was out, and I was like, oh cool, someone's dropping all these good items. And then you later found out that that item doesn't exist with those stats because it's way over the stat range. So you're just like, cool, thanks. I mean, you didn't care back then because you're just like, oh cool, an awesome item. Who gives a shit? Okay, so this game sold very well. Within the first year, they were only expecting to sell like 100,000 copies. So they weren't expecting too much from this game. Oh, little did they know. But because it got very positive reviews, they kind of shot it up to 500,000. So by December 17th, the pre-orders were at 450,000. So they were almost at their goal just from pre-orders, which is crazy because they only initially expected 100,000. This was the highest selling computer game for the first 6 months of 1997. And they attributed part of its success because of the end of Christmas launch, because there weren't any games out that time. I think it was just because it was a good game. So by mid-2001, the game sold over 2.5 million copies. So I think they beat their initial goal of 100,000. This game reviewed incredibly well. It got like 5 out of 5 stars, I think like 8.9, and then up, just 9s and up. That's all it got. It actually has a 94 on Metacritic. But for good reason. It was a good change. Like, I do love Baldur's Gate 2. That's like one of my favorite PC games. But I also love Diablo so much just because of its like simplicity and addictive goodness. Love that crap. So any good dungeon crawler, I'm 100% on board. One of the most popular parts about the game was actually the online multiplayer. I only did it a little. A lot of cheaters. There were hacks where you can kill people in town. Come on. In 1997, there was a expansion made for Diablo, which a lot of people don't know about. It was not made by Blizzard. It was made by Sierra, and it added some new items, 2 new dungeons, and a new character, the monk. A new little storyline added for the new dungeons. So you're not just like, oh, new floors we found magically. When people were digging through, they found that there were 2 unfinished classes that were not like released or talked about, and it was the Bard and the Barbarian. So the Bard didn't come back ever again, but the Barbarian came back twice. Blizzard sold rights to distribute and publish this game on console, so we got Diablo on PlayStation. If anyone ever played it, it actually wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't like amazing. But for a console port of a PC game, like in that era, that style of game, nowadays it's like seamless. But the Diablo 3 was made with console in mind, so that kind of defeats it. It'd be like if they tried to port Diablo 2 to PS2, which I would have played the shit out of it. I just like the controller. But they released it on PS1, they dropped the multiplayer, but they added 2-player co-op, which was actually pretty fun. I remember playing it with my brother and my cousin, and we got our asses kicked. But it was fun. I really liked it. It's one of those games I want to get just to get, because I want to add it to my collection. The actual killer of the game was the PS1 memory card has 15 blocks. That game fucking took 10 blocks, so I had to delete some of my shit. You're not gonna go out and buy a new memory card when you're a kid. You don't fucking have that money. I rented a game, I had to delete some save files off my memory card, and then I had to play Diablo, which, I mean, no regrets. Or maybe a little. I don't know what I deleted, so God fucking knows. Diablo did a, like, 20th anniversary, and they did a Darkening of Tristram event, where you go to Tristram, and then you pretty much played through, like, the old dungeons, kind of redone in the current format, which I thought was really cool. I like that they still, like, do little dumb shit like that. I want a new Diablo game, or a remaster of 2, because any reason to play 2 again, yes please. I really love this series. It's the beginning of my love for dungeon crawlers. Started from this game. While I will always love more thinky strategy games like Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter and XCOM, those types of games still exist now, so I can always get my fix. Always love a good dungeon crawler where you just click a million times. So this game is also on a few greatest game of all time lists, in one variation or another. Some people might choose this one because it started the franchise and it was like the beginning. Other people will probably choose Diablo 2 because that game did what the first one did so much better. Starting at 1, I'll get to 2 eventually. Not that anyone cares. This game definitely influenced a ton of games that came out later. Diablo clone is a description for a game for a reason. Well, I just want to say thanks for watching, and also why. If you have any ideas for my next video, please let me know. Or don't. That's fine too. Alright, I'll see you jerks later.